hide all of you. In keeping with our free Wednesday, my part of the workshop is going to be introducing to a lot of people the concept of free software. And I'm going to be talking about what it is and lots of options. You don't need to worry about cramming notes because I'm going to throw a lot of stuff up, but you'll get a copy of the presentation. And I also have a second half of the presentation that has all of the live links that'll take you directly to these websites. Of course, this is an APCUG's Wednesday workshop, and it's presented by me, and I am known as Free John, and that's because just about everything I use on the computer is free. I'm a member of the East Central Ohio Technical Users Club outside of, in Newark, Ohio, and you can get a hold of me at freejohn@Proton Mail. And I'm also a member of the Speakers Bureau, and I happen to be the regional advisor for regions 3 and 6, most of the upper Midwest. So today I'm going to be talking about functional resources that are economically enticing. There are functional resources that are economically, functional resource. Hey, you know what? Functional resources, economically enticing, comes out to be free. Now, in my particular situation, which is very similar to a lot of you, I'm a retired teacher on a very fixed income. And so I need computer software that does what I want, because there's a lot of software that does more than I need. I don't need a Swiss Army knife. I just need a butter knife. And I'm looking for things where the price is reasonable, because I have found that there's lots of software out there that costs a lot of money, and I'm paying for a lot of stuff I'm not using. So what I found as I've been looking around is that there's software that does cost a lot of money, but there's software that's free. And among free software, there is ones I like better than the others, which doesn't necessarily mean you will like them better. I'm just going to say, here are the software. So when we look at the types of software, we have one that's closed source software, and then open source software. And the initials for that are CSS and OSS. And I get a lot of people that wonder about what in the world is open source software, and how is closed source and open source software different. And I can easily explain that to people when I talk about recipes. And I know that just about every one of us has been to a potluck picnic of some sorts through either your clubs, your churches, or family reunions. And people bring food that is really good. And as an example, I'll pretend that I went to a computer club potluck with Judy, and she made a dish that was just really, really great. And so I'm going to go to Judy and say, Judy, that was great. I'm going to be having a family reunion. I need you to give me that recipe. I've got to take it. And she says, well, you know, that recipe's been in my family, and we've kind of agreed that it's, yay, Microsoft Windows. It's been in the family for a long time, and so I need to keep it kind of private. But you know what I can do? You give me the money for what it costs to make it, and I'll make it for you. So I can't get the recipe, but I can buy it from her. Or she might say, I'll fix it for you. But another one of her recipes, I go to her and say, it was great. Can I have the recipe? And she says, well, of course. I got the recipe from Bill, and Bill got the recipe from Huey, and Huey got the recipe, and we just been sharing it all over the place. That is free, and I know what's all in it. And what's nice about it is I can look at the ingredients, and in case there's something in there that one of my relatives couldn't eat, I can take it out if it won't mess it up too bad. Or on the other side, my wife's done this a lot. She takes a recipe and said, you know, that was pretty good, but you know, if we added some of this to it, that might be a lot better. And so open source developers are the ones that are sharing this code because they want their recipes to be better each time somebody else checks it. So with open source software, there are a lot of programs that are kind of cousins to each other because they came from the same recipe, and somebody just modified the program and saying, you know, this program would be better if it could do this. Or somebody else says, this program doesn't need to do that. So we take that code part out. So we have paid software and free software. Putting it all together, here are the little anachronisms for them, the PCSS. And for most of you, you're very familiar with that because that's the proprietary software that nobody gets to see what's in it. Nobody gets to know the code, and you pay for it. The POSS is the open source, but there are some people who said, you know, I worked hard to make this recipe. I'd like a little bit of money for it. And it's usually very little bit for it. But then we're going to be talking mostly about, so you can see that we have lots of free and open source software. There is absolutely no cost to you at all. And if something is FOSS and there's a price tag with it, run, because that's illegal. If it's something that is an open source software, it cannot have a price tag on it to purchase. Now, it might be where they'll say, you pay for nowadays the thumb drive or the CD, and we will put it on there for you. Then that's a little bit different. That's, you're paying for the media. One last thing, when you talk about software, we do have some software that's specific for an OS. It only works on one or two particular operating systems. But we have a lot of people that go to the trouble to make one that's cross-platform, works on any operating system, whether it's Windows, Mac, Linux, smartphones, tablets, all that stuff. So that's the X. So my new jumbled up letters is FOSSX. So we have free open source cross-platform software. And during my presentation, I'm going to have those marked with little yellow asterisks, so you know these are the ones that are the FOSS ones. Okay, I will, disclaimer and say that free programs don't have maybe all the features. I've been using free software for a lot of years. People tell me, well, there's something that's not in there that's in that program. Well, if there is, I haven't missed it. I've been using the LibreOffice program since it was OpenOffice, and before that it was StarOffice. And so I've been using that since back in the early 2000s. If there's something missing in there, I haven't worried, I haven't missed it. So I tell people, start with free programs. If it doesn't meet your needs, purchase the paid program, and then be willing to admit that you're paying whatever you paid for the features that were missing. Now, normally when I do my presentation, I do it with what I do, or the areas of computer work. And so I'm going to kind of still do that, talking about things I use. I don't use all of these programs, but these are the areas that I work in, and I have people who ask about that kind of software. And I can't do any presentation without starting with the operating system, with the brains of your whole computer, your graphical desktop, lots of applications. And the top of the list, maybe the granddaddy of all the FOSS programs, is your Linux operating system. Totally free. And for those who have not been with us on our third Wednesday workshops that we've been having for the last year or so with Linux, Linux is just a operating system that looks very similar and acts very similar to Windows and Mac. As you can see, there it is, drop down menus, toolbars, nothing different than what you already use. Say about programs, there's nothing. People think it's some kind of a alien type of program. No, it looks very much similar, and you wouldn't almost know it if I set it in front of you. All right, I do a lot of help. I'm sure many of you do with helping out people with their tech problems and such. And one of the things I need to do a lot is talk with people. And the phone is partly good, but we have programs. Now, you're on Zoom, so I'm not even going to really talk much about it, except that you need to be aware that for free accounts with Zoom, they've now put a 40-minute limit on any meeting. It used to be if you were on one-to-one, you could talk for way longer. And I found that I can't do Zoom on one-to-one with people because their problems usually take more than 40 minutes to resolve. But I do want to point out that there's another excellent program that does the exact same thing as Zoom. That's called Jitsi. It's open source. You can also do the same thing with Skype. It's now a Microsoft product. And I'm not quite sure how long that's going to stick around because Microsoft has Teams, but all of these are free to you. A lot of the things that I'm going to share with you have free and paid versions, just like Sue said. And so you try the free version, and if you need more, then you can go with that. Jitsi, if you haven't seen it, has quite the same controls as Zoom does, and a lot of some extra features with it, mainly because it's free. Skype is my phone system. You can see that I've got Judy in it, so I can do a quick call with her plus other people. Zoom will also do video and will let you do sharing, but not as good as some other programs. So I mostly use the Skype so I can talk to somebody while I'm working with them. In case their computer goes out, I'm still going to be able to hold their hand. But the remote access is the big thing that I do a lot with. And in those areas, we have 2 free but not open source programs, AnyDesk, TeamViewer. And the free service that I have found is web-based is DW Service. They all work very good. With AnyDesk, you can see that on the outside of the rim, that was the same Linux desktop that you were seeing earlier, and it's connected to a Windows machine, and this is a Windows machine connecting to take over a Linux machine. And with these programs, I can control that other computer when they don't know what to do with theirs. TeamViewer is another one that I used to use a lot, but I've dropped it for most parts because they have started limiting the features for the Linux user, and I don't like that. So I use AnyDesk. But DW Service is another one of the ones. It's same thing. It's web-based, and you connect to the other computer, and you can take over controls of that computer. Password managers we're going to talk about, important. If you don't use a password manager, it's probably because you're using the same password for everything. You got to stop doing that. We've been talking about these. A lot of these programs, we have workshops and speakers bureau people that will go in depth. I'm just going to be sharing programs. You'll hear more about Bitwarden a little bit later. KeyPass is another free open source program. They had a Windows version, then they had a Linux version, and finally somebody said, well, why do we need to have multiple versions? Let's just have one. So KeyPass XC is the cross-platform one that would work on any of your devices at the same time. Also, RoboForm, LastPass, Dashlane are other free password managers. Check them out. They're free. Bitwarden, things are included with your website. So you click on them, and then you click on the button that says copy and paste my passwords so that you can have passwords that are very difficult to break, 25 things long or 30 things long, because you don't have to remember those. Bitwarden or your password manager will. Here's the KeyPass. It's very similar. You've got your listing of categories for your webs, and then you put in your username, password, and then you just do a copy paste instead of typing it in for you. Even RoboForm has the same thing with that. So a lot of people like RoboForm. It does things for logins. Bookmark managers. Used to use this a lot in my history, but now I use more my Bitwarden program as my password or as a bookmark, because most of the places I'm going to are the ones I have to log in. But Eversync is your open source web-based bookmark manager where you can put all your bookmarks in, and then there's a either web-based, or you can get a extension for your browser, and then you have all your bookmarks with you right there. The problem with the browser-based ones is that they're specific to the browser. I don't use just one browser, and I have multiple devices with multiple browsers. With Eversync, they put them all together, and I populate all my different browsers with the web addresses that I use. RoboForm also will do that too. And you can see here that these are categories for different websites, and you can just be able to pull this up, click on them, go to your website, and I don't have to remember long web addresses, because I'm getting to the point where I can't remember all that stuff. The RoboForm, besides the logins I showed you before, they do bookmarks and some other features of RoboForm. So, it's whichever one works best with how you manage your things. Protection. Two programs I want to bring out. One's called BeachBit for cleaning up your computer, and one program for generating all the information about your computer. BeachBit is very complex, probably not for the very first computer user, but you run it, it goes through your computer and finds all of the stuff that probably needs to be cleaned out. And you can pick and choose what you're doing. That's, does a great job of getting rid of all that junk that gets left behind. The program that does a great job of collecting all the information on your computer is called Speccy, S-P-E-C-C-Y. And as you can see here, there's categories on the side that give you general information. You can see that this was a Windows 10 computer that I collected information from. It tells you who it was made by, all that information. And it goes into huge details. So you collect this and then you save this file. And then anytime you have a question about the contents of your computer, you've got it. Just for example, here under the operating system, it tells you, what all is listed on here and what programs you've got on here at the time, users, all that sort of stuff. So that's one program that I recommend getting. Run it, save that file, put it on a thumb drive off computer. So if you need to know all the ins and outs of your computer, you've got it. We need to talk about backup protection. That is so critical. One program I liked when I was using it back in the Windows days was Sync Back Free, and I had another friend that really liked Free File Sync. Great programs that you can decide what you want backed up, when you want it backed up, and where you want it backed up to. Clonezilla and Partition Image are two that will copy your whole computer. So if your hard drive goes out, you can re-image it and get it all back. There are 3 other ones that I've got listed here that are not open source, but they're free. And these are some of the top ones that are being used. Of the 3, my favorite is Macium Reflect. This is the Think Back. It shows you that you pick up, create software backup profiles, as they call it here. And like you can see, it's this is an old picture, but I can decide what I want to back up and when. It tells me if it was successful. So rather than back up everything at one time, I can back up things at different times and do it overnight, 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm not supposed to be up. Clonezilla is a real good one for doing your image backup. The only problem is that this is not a GUI, which is not a graphical user interface. It's all text-based, but this one works great. Here's the one for EasyUs, and shows you how you just do the backups. And this is the one I like, Macrim Reflect. You get to pick exactly what you want to back up and where. Get it and try it. Make sure you have a backup. And the Aomi backup is another one out there. And these are important because if you have your stuff on it, hard drives do fail. And you don't want to wait till it fails to say, oops, I needed stuff off of that. Cloud protection is another area that is good. Excuse me. We've always talked in our backup programs that you're supposed to have 3, you know, 1 off the computer, 1 off the site. So here's your off-site ones, pCloud, iDrive, and then of course, most of you know about Google Drive and OneDrive. I don't care what you use, they're all free with limitations to the size. So if you need a lot more backup, you pay for it, but that's just for storage. Yeah, so I recommend pCloud. It's very secure. It's a Swiss-based one. iDrive is a very inexpensive one. Look that up because you can back up all of your different devices for one price, and some of these, you know, you would have to purchase separate. New installations. You'll hear more about Patch My PC later, but these 2 programs are what our club can use if we are refurbishing a computer and we have to reinstall all sorts of software. This is how you do it in both programs. They have a list of programs. You just check all these programs and say, I want to install all of these. This one, you create a file and then you run the file and then you go away and have lunch. And while you're gone, all of the programs that you want get installed, and you don't have to do one after the other after the other. Both programs do it great. Productivity. A lot of people are former Microsoft users with concerns about the costs and whatever. So here are some options for you for free productivity tools. My number 1 program is LibreOffice. It's, again, free open source. Calligra is a branch of LibreOffice because it's recipe, and it's the newer one. It's works on Windows and Mac, but it isn't. It's the newest one, so there might be still some little limitations or some support for Win and Mac, but you can run Calligra on Wins and Macs along with it. We also have another offshoot called Free Office. Libre means free, but Free Office and Only Office. Free Office is not open source, but it's a free program, but it's a limited one because there's a paid version where you get all the tools. And of course, if you want to stick with the free, you've got Google Docs and Microsoft Office on the web that you can use. LibreOffice has a great start page where it has all your recent files that you've done, and then links to create new documents. The important thing that I want to share with you about LibreOffice is that LibreOffice now is 2 in 1. When LibreOffice was first out, it stuck with the traditional drop-down menu, and people like that. Then we had people starting with Microsoft when they started going to the ribbon, and eventually there are people who like the ribbon method. And so now that so many people were starting to leave Microsoft Office because of costs and other things and come to LibreOffice, LibreOffice said, okay, we can meet the needs of everybody. And with one flick of an option change, you can have a LibreOffice that is now with ribbons. So all those people who were Windows people can easily switch to LibreOffice when they make it a ribbon style top. LibreOffice also has the free program for spreadsheets. It also has the program for presentations. Every presentation I've been doing for the last 15 or so years are all made by LibreOffice Impress. So you're watching one right now. It has a drawing program that's even better than Paint type. It also has a database. I don't use databases, so I'm not an expert on this, but it includes it. Now, continuing productivity, note taking. A lot of us need to take notes. And two of my special recommendations for free and open source is Joplin and Simple Note. Joplin is very, very similar to Evernote, which you'll hear about later. But I like it because it's open source and free. You have your different notebooks that you can make. And you can see the notebooks, you can see the different things in the notebook, and then you can see your actual document. This one is also done in a, you have an option of using like HTML code. It's not called HTML code, but you can do it, or you can do it in the traditional, just the desktop. And this works on all of your devices. And I have them on my phone, my laptop, my desktop, and anywhere I go, I can access my notes and files. If you, though, just are looking for a simple one, notice that there's no folders, no notebooks, just simple notes, then you really want Simple Note. And it's great, so easy. I use it, just a quick note. What filter do I need for the furnace? What light bulb do I need? I've got little simple notes for that. There are still, most people are doing webmail. A lot of groups, I'm not going to talk about webmail, but I'll just put them in your head. Check out Proton Mail for high security and privacy and free to start with. But there are a lot of people that still want their mail like the old days of Outlook Express, when your email came right to your computer and was stored on your computer. If you are that kind of a person that wants your stuff not in somebody's cloud on your computer, then you need to check out Thunderbird. It's made by the same people, or was originally made by the same people that does Firefox. And they have an add-on for Lightning for a calendar. This is Thunderbird. If anybody has ever used the good old Outlook Express from years gone by, works just the same way as it. The files come down to your computer, and you can have multiple addresses on one Thunderbird, and it just goes out and gets all your mail for you. What I really like is the Thunderbird's Lightning calendar that you can create. This is a sample, and I've got one very similar because I probably have at least 6 or 7 different colored calendars with the stuff I have. And I like this one because many of the calendars, the color coding is a dot in front of your event. Here with the Lightning, it shows up perfect. Lightning will also connect with Google Calendar, and so you can use both of those together, and what you put on one puts on the other. But I like this one because the color of the background of your event makes it really easy. An interesting one to check out is MailSpring, a free mail program that installs on your computer. But the difference with this one is that if you click on, like for Amy, you can also access, as you can see right here, there's 3 different Amy's emails, which is kind of neat because then you can already go back through easily all the emails from Amy. And that's a kind of a thing. It's better than a filter. I was looking for emails from Judy, and I had to go and do the filter and go all through. But here, just click on it, and then on the side, it gives me a little bit of information about Amy. Screen capturing. We teach people that if you have problems on your computer, you better capture that error message or screen, because when somebody's going to try to help you, they want to know details. And just saying to them, well, I think it said something like, Here are some programs that you can have that will take screenshots of your computer, the whole computer, the window that you're working on, or just a portion of it. GreenShot, KSnip, and ShareX. Now, 2 of them are just for Windows, but since most of you are Windows people, I include a lot of the Windows stuff, but KSnip is one that's across platform, and I really like that one. But GreenShot will do a lot of different capturing and configuring. It's not just the simple snippet type program, you know, that when you do the on your keyboard, when you hit the print screen and would just take a print of your screen. These programs do a lot more, especially when you want to be able to do some editing of the program. I used GreenShot back in the days when I created handbooks for teaching computer skills, because I can go through and draw arrows and put boxes and circle things and everything. Now with the KSnip, I like it because this added a numbering system, so I could even put sequence of do this first, do this second, whatever. And then you can copy them, save them, store them. The newest one I found was called ShareX, and I tell Windows people, you better check this out, because as you look at this screen right here, this is just a portion of all of the things that ShareX can do with capturing the screens and stuff. When I first saw it, I said, well, this doesn't really look too exciting, but the feature is that it has a floating toolbar that doesn't get in your way, but it does all these different things. It does the numbering, it makes speech balloons, it makes all sorts of different kinds of lines. So check out those for screen capturing, because they're free. You're looking for a multimedia player? Well, we can talk about Strawberry and Audacious. Strawberry is kind of like an iTunes thing, and a lot of people like it. It's based off of a program called Clementine, so you know, fruit, and the same thing with Audacious. 2 programs for people who are really into a lot of audio on your computers. If we're talking about editing, really, there's only one listed here: Audacity. It's out there, and it's the one used by the most. Simply, it can be used to cut out noises, splice together things, but it's more more usable because it can run multiple layers of tracks, and you can do all sorts of audio editing, good things and bad things. So Audacity. More people, though, I think are interested in multimedia editing with videos. And here are 4 programs, 3 of which are open source, free programs that are very, very good. OpenShot, Shotcut, and Blender. I've added a 4th one, DaVinci Resolve, because this was interesting. I'll show that in a second. OpenShot is one that they've been recommending for people who are new to video editing, because it's so easy to use. And we're not going to talk about all the video editing. We'll do that in a video editing workshop, but OpenShot for everybody, and it's very easy to use. The one they recommend, though, is the big good one, is Shotcut, not shortcut, Shotcut. And you can see that you can have multiple tracks, so you can have audio tracks, video tracks, so, lots of things. We did an excellent workshop on our website on video editing with another program that you could get temporarily for free, but here's one that you can do probably everything that we did, and it's totally free. If you're looking for a program that does 3D drawings and editing, Blender is the one you want. So check out Blender with all the tools it can use. It's even used by professionals, and it's free. The newest one I've added is DaVinci's Resolve. My son is in the business of editing and music and video, and teaches the class. And he told me, hey, you need to get this one because it's free. It is top of the line, and I haven't found out what the cost one gets you that this doesn't. Already I look at this and say, there's more than this, enough here that I can handle. But for a program, if you really need a good one, it's amazing. These people say, we want you to have it. Everyday people, you can see that there's audio tracks, multiple tracks, place to watch your previews, DaVinci Resolve. It's free, get it. And photo editing, you know, GIMP is the open source king of the photo editing. Lots of tools. It's used by even professionals too, as the program to do all your editing. Doesn't cost you a thing. Inkscape is the one that helps you. We all grew up in Paint, bitmap program, where we were actually coloring in little squares of graph paper, which didn't look bad until you tried to enlarge it. The more you enlarged it, the more jagged your edges got because the squares. Well, this is the one that makes the actual curves, and they stay curves. So if you do a lot of drawings and resizing, you need the program called Inkscape. Krita is another program for those who are really graphic artists and need to be doing photo editing. It has the tools that GIMP has, but you might like it better. And I always bring out this one because most of you have heard of Lightroom. This is Darktable. And this is the free program that's open source that lets you do all of the stuff that you do beyond in the normal editing that you would, like in Lightroom, you do it in the light table and the dark room. And this one's neat. I like this one because you can take a picture and you have this line, drag the line back and forth and see the before and the after of how it's going to look. Finishing up, last couple things. A lot of people sometimes need to be able to send stuff and they have trouble because it's too big. You need to be compressing it. And the big open source program you want is 7-zip. If you need to test out other operating systems, or you want to test out something on your operating system before you do it on your real computer and crash it or something, create using VirtualBox a virtual version of that program, and then you can test things out. And if it crashes, no big deal. It wasn't the real program. A program that you might want to look at after Sue's great program for doing your genealogy is a program called Gramps. We've had a little bit of discussions about that in some past workshops. And tree size free. Here's the zip. This is the one where you just say, I want to zip all these programs together into one smaller. And then the opposite way, when somebody sends you one, you just extract them back out. Virtual machines, you can have many different virtual machines and test out things. And that way you can not ruin your big computer. This is the dashboard for Gramps. It has all of that stuff that Sue has taught you. You take all that information and throw it into here with the people, the relationships, the family, the events, all of that sort of stuff in a free program. Here just shows you how you can start building your family tree. So check on this program called Gramps if you're wanting the free one to get started. Tree size free, you need this program. Tree size free tells you what is taking up space on your computer. As you see in this example, it shows you from the very top what's the most taking up space at the bottom. This program was a lifesaver for a friend of mine who called me and said, my hard drive is filled. I can't figure out what's filling it up. So we threw on the tree size free program, and then it showed us. What it turned out was that a second user on his computer, because you should have more than one user, had a program that was backing up software to it. And he doesn't really use that program. So he was looking through all of his files and couldn't find out why his hard drive was full. When we found out the other user and checked, wow. All we had to do was stop that backing up automatically to that person, and he was fine. It'll also show you in a graphical look about all the files, and you can see the size. There's another version called WinderStat. So it's like Windows directory statistics. I like the tree size free better, but it will do the same thing. Are there other pro software? Sure, Judy's going to be talking about more, but you can also check out on these resources. Here are some websites that have lots of alternate free open source software. And I thank you for doing it. And as I said, when you get to the bonus side, most every software I talked about, I put a live link in so that you can go right to the website without having to worry about going on the wrong alley. All right, stop it there. As I said, you'll get the copy so that, you know, I didn't even give you everything that I usually do because we said there's a limitation on our time today. Judy.
Macrium Reflect Free can be used for Linux or Mac too for an image backup by booting to the version on a flash drive. Comment.
Correct.
John.
And I also got to tell you that almost all of these backup tools that you have are all Linux based, because Linux will run on any computer. And so when you're running these programs, you're actually running a Linux in the background.
And that was from John from the Birkdale group. And he would like to know what tool you use to blur parts of a picture as you did when showing the Thunderbird email tool.
That was not my Thunderbird picture, but my GreenShot and KSnip will do that. So when I take a screenshot, I go to one of my tools and I just draw a blurry line across things. So both of those programs have that feature.
A question from, I believe, a newbie. Are John's programs that he's talking about safe to download? I use Ninite and I trust that it has removed any extra stuff others might have hidden in it. Here's your reputation on the line now. My
reputation is on the line. As Free John says, these are all the ones I would recommend, and I've had them on my computer. So yes, and I'm glad she has that much confidence in Night, because I don't have it as much as I do for the one that you're going to talk about.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Raise your salary for yourself, please.
Oh, okay, good. Cha-ching.
Yeah. How to convert an Outlook database for importing to Thunderbird.
I will defer that. I have another friend. It can be done. It can be done, but it's kind of a difficult task because Microsoft didn't want you to do it.
Right. Okay. I remember that from the back of the working days.
Yeah, I have a friend who did that, and it works, but it's not an easy, like most everything else that converts is easy.
Okay. And the Under the Hood user group, best name ever, in San Diego at our meeting the first Wednesday of the month. Do you have any problems? And one guy had a problem with his Thunderbird email. And I use Gmail, but it didn't sound like that much of a big deal to me. And they were troubleshooting it. And somebody finally said, how often has it happened? He said, only one time. And we looked at him and said, okay, report back at the next meeting in August, if you've had it happen again. And it was so funny. And he said, okay, well, then I'll just ignore it. He couldn't send it.
No. Need to be 2 or 3 times, then we can do it. And again, when you have problems, that screenshot program that you get to take a picture of what's going wrong or what's not happening really helps when people are trying to help you, because you might say, well, I think it was this, I think it was that. Nope, doesn't work. It has to be exact. So well, good.
Is it my turn now?
Let me introduce you.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. We're glad that so many of you are still with us. This is great. We never figured that there would be this many people. We have 162 besides the team. And
but we also had over 300 register. I always wonder why people bother to do that if they're not going to attend.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch, and Judy does her approach a little bit different. That's why we work together on a same presentation. And so Judy, We all know Judy. She's our lady with the questions. So if you have questions for her, still go ahead and send them to her and she'll look at them after she's done. So Judy, your turn.
Thank you so much. I have been giving this presentation since 2015 under various names. And I was going to take the time to look back at the 2015 one and then contemplated I'd just show that one. But mine is bare bones because John talked about so much that is included in my presentations, no matter what their name was. And I had a chat that says include this. If you have not used BellArc Advisor, you absolutely have to. It is the most fascinating program. Even if you're, not that much on the techie side of the, spectrum, it gives you every darn tidbit about what is on your computer, gives you, a report with covers everything, stuff that you probably didn't even know you had. And if you're doing tech support for someone, setting up a new computer, use it to, get the details about the first computer and then the new computer. So you can make sure that, you get all the software installed from the first computer. And this is the beginning, and you will see when you get your report in strategic places throughout, you will see it says personal home use only. They want to make sure that you're using the free program and it's just for you. It's not for your business. And this is everything that it covers. Like I said, it covers everything but the kitchen sink. You can download it many ways. I'm a Word person and I chose to do it as a Word document. It was 9 pages long in 10, font size, which is really too small for my eyeballs. And there were 2,443 words that went along with it. And down on local drive, it had my C, it had my external hard drive, and it had my 1,000-year-old iOmega external hard drive that I brought stuff home from work a gazillion years ago when I walked out the door. I use Bitly. It just shortens URLs. You can manage them, you can analyze them, you can create a custom link even with the free, and I have free and pay if they're both. But what's interesting is you can also find out how many people have clicked on your link. So here's the magnetic charger cables and everything that I learned about at the APCUG meeting that absolutely made me laugh and I thought was fantastic. You can send that to somebody in an email. It might get truncated. They might not, you look at that and go, ridiculous. Or would you rather send something like that? Much easier to just click on that little one on the bottom. And the analysis was that 6 people have clicked on that link. So there's at least 6 people that I sent this information to that think it's important enough to check those magnetic cables out. John talked about password managers. This is his. So it says John Kennedy from EchoTuck. He lives and breathes Bitwarden, and you can see the operating systems that it works with. And we all know that we're not supposed to use the same password for everything, but I bet there's still a lot of people who do that, or, have some that are would be very easy to hack. So you need a password manager, and John recommends this one wholeheartedly. It's cross-platform for everything, and the data is encrypted from the minute it leaves your computer till it gets up to the program in the cloud. And they all do. They all create passwords, and you can shape, I don't like that password. I want to, give me another one. You can decide how many letters, numbers, symbols, etc. you want in a password. But you need to think of these as one-stop shopping. I bought a new dishwasher a while ago. I have all the information about my dishwasher. You know, when I bought it a 2-year extended warranty with it, and so on and so on. I have that in my password manager program. And so if I happen to, you know, walk off this earth, my kids are going to be able to go in there and find out about all kinds of additional information than just the password. I've used CCleaner from the beginning of time. This was in my 2015 presentation. This is one of the 2 programs that I pay for. The other one is Malwarebytes. But these are the options you get for the free one. And the professional, you can just do more stuff. And it's like John says, he's looked at, you know, paid information that you get in addition to the free. And he says he's never missed anything. So, you know, you're very happy with, you know, the health check, making your computer faster, privacy protection. The one thing you need to know is don't forget to customize it. Just don't install CCleaner and go, because it's going to clean things off your browsers, and you might rely on past, you know, websites that you've gone to. And you don't want to clean that and get rid of those. So please customize anything that you download. Huey, he's the Evernote guy. He loves this program, and it helps you organize your life. And when I was using it, I called it my Post-it note program, because when I worked at great big, huge CRT monitors, yellow Post-it notes all the way around the outside for things that I had to remember. And when I would plan my monthly meetings, I put all the information in a note. Back in the day, David Williams said, would you please find out how many of our groups are on social media? I created a note in Evernote, and it took me quite a while to finally accumulate the information, because of course I sent the email out to people and I didn't hear back from many. So I had to take time to visit each website, etc. Wonderful place for me to organize everything. But I use, in this part of my life, Microsoft Edge's collections. I absolutely love it. When I get ready for my meetings, I will come across websites that I think, I want to include that information, you know, and so on and so on. And then when it comes time for me to put the August meeting together, which we just had on Monday, I can click on here, and I have to tell you, I didn't use one of those things, but I'm going to use them for the September meeting, and because I went a completely different way. But and how I work now, this works for me. I live and breathe Grammarly. I'm firmly convinced that everybody should use this program. Your information that you send out in your email reflects on us, the documents that we put together. It's free and pay. Oh, I forgot, I pay for this one too. And it works with all your browsers. It comes up in Gmail and all kinds of stuff. And it uses AI to say, you know, that's really not the way it should be stated. It needs to be stated a different way. And I have found that I'm a horrible writer. As my oldest daughter said, Mom, you could never, you know, be a real life teacher in California because you couldn't pass the CBEST because you write and talk in bullet points. Well, that's because I've done so many PowerPoint presentations over my life. But I love this program, and I recommend the free in addition to the editor with Word. And you'll get a report every month on how you're using it. And I get the biggest kick out of that because I use more unique words than other people. Well, that's because, you know, I'm talking about tech stuff, and that's probably not in, you know, one of Grammarly's hot topics of words that they think people use. I have been using it since April 14, 2019, and this is how many words they have checked during that time. But I say, give it a try. Grandson number 3 is going to be a sports journalist. And I have him using this because I tell him, you're an excellent writer, so much better writer than I am. And I said, you want to be the best that you can be. And this will just help you fine tune your articles a little bit. And he graduates in December, and he's already a published author in the hockey world. Here's LastPass. This is another very popular password manager program. It's free or paid. A few months ago, they decided to take some of their options out of the free version, and many people left LastPass and went over to Bitwarden and found out that they could just send over all export and import. Everything went into Bitwarden perfectly. Bob G's theory is you really need 2 password managers in case one for some reason goes south. You could still get into all of your accounts. So you might want to think about having 2 and importing all the information into it. Yes, you really don't have to use Adobe Reader. I go to websites and they still say, download Adobe Reader to read our newsletter. Well, that has been an obsolete statement for 16,000 years. I have used Nitro PDF since I got back from Southwest Tech Conference in San Diego, and Adobe was hacked and said immediately, apply this fix. 2 weeks later, it happened again. And I thought, you know, I have to worry about Microsoft's Tuesday patches. I'm not doing this with Adobe. So I went to Nitro PDF Reader, and it's a very simple program and it works great for me. This is their welcome screen. It says you want to learn how to use it. We can help you get started. And then here's John's PowerPoint PDF of his presentation brought into Nitro. And it's simple. It's been around for a long time, and it's just a reader. And this is what John was saying. Patch My PC is my very favorite utility in the whole world. And Matt Batt, who was the president at the time of the Sun City Center Computer Club in Florida, talked about it in a president's email. And I felt from reading all his president's columns and about him in their newsletters and things that he was somebody that knew what they were talking about. I knew I could trust him. So I downloaded it, and I had never been happy with File Hippo or Ninite. They never worked for me. And I'm sad to say that Matt is no longer with us, but boy, for me, this is the highlight of the thing. And, you know, hackers, they love outdated software. They think, aha, there's going to be a security glitch there, and I'm going to get into their computer and muck it up. So you need to have something that updates your software other than your Patch Tuesdays. And I hope you all who are using Office have checked the box that says, if there's an Office update, please include that in my updates. I love this, as shallow as it is, because it's colorful. I don't deal well with just black and white. I really like colors. And this just appeals to me. And I ran this yesterday, and you'll see there's 4 programs that need to be updated. And I gave a presentation on LibreOffice to my group years ago, cold. And I taught Word for 22 years to adults through adult ed. And I had absolutely no problem with LibreOffice. I only couldn't find one thing that I normally did. So it needed to be updated. And this said, hey, we've got 3 down, 1 to go. It just does it in the background. You don't even realize it's happening. And you can, it's set it and forget it. Do you want to do it automatically? Just check one of those radio buttons, take a look at that, and then you just forget about it. And you know all of your stuff, in addition to your Microsoft products, is being updated. PayPal, I live with PayPal. I use it for all of my shopping online. You know the drill, don't ever use your debit card for anything. And if you're kind of paranoid, you could link it to a low amount credit card if you want to, whatever. I have it linked with my Discover card, and I get cash back. Sometimes I get a whole bunch of cash back, depending upon how much I bought, you know, at various and sundry places. But please, if you shop at various and sundry sites, check and see how many credit cards you have listed in your account. oh, that one, I didn't bother to redo that one, and I'm using a different one now. Make sure that you only have one listed just in case it gets hacked. You don't want them having, all of your credit card numbers. Revo uninstaller. This is kind of a thing that you need in the back of your head. You really don't need it on your hard drive at all times. But my youngest daughter had, back in the BlackBerry days, had a BlackBerry, and she had the app on her desktop at home. And she's my techie kid. She was capable of uninstalling it. But hey, Mom, can you come over and uninstall it? We're getting new phones, and they're not going to be BlackBerries. So I did with the regular Windows uninstall, and something was still left. And every time she turned her computer on, it popped up and said, I'm sorry, we can't find blah, 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 blah. I personally thought that was funny, but she didn't. So then I learned about Revo uninstaller, and I went back over and put that on, and zoom, it was gone. So this is the back of the head program. Bob G says you need unchecking. If you forget to click on custom install, and with my students and even some computer club members, custom install, I couldn't possibly do a custom install. Well, yes, you can. You read the sentence and then you say, is this something I want? And it's either a yes, you leave the checkbox checked, or you take it off. But if you forget to do that, or you don't want to do that, unchecking will do it for you. Venmo. You can pay everybody but the kitchen sink with this. You can link it to your bank account or your debit card. My kids, my grandsons, and little girls selling lemonade use it. And there's 4 bullet points down there that you can read. But one of my daughters and her husband and their dog, Labrador Retriever Coco, had gone out for a walk, and they'd used the bottle of water for Coco that was gone. They were coming back, and little girls had set up a lemonade stand. They didn't take any money with them. They were just out for a walk. And these little girls said, would you like some lemonade? And they said, yes, but we don't have any money. And the little elementary school age girl said, do you take Venmo? And they looked at each other and said, well, yeah, here we go. And the next day, this was during the beginning of COVID, when, they were all saying, take care of your older relatives. Go to the store for them. My oldest daughter's husband called and said, when are you going to go to Costco? We need toilet paper and paper towels. By the time I get there, the seniors have taken, if they're all shopped out. So I went and I gave him a call, and I said, I've got it. The next day he came up with my oldest grandson, and they walked up, and he said to me, do you take Venmo? And that was $35 down the drain, because I looked him in the eye and I said, no, I don't. Grammy has changed her ways. DLC media player. Everybody in the whole free world should be using this for their videos. That is just the beginning of my group's presentation last Monday. And it's extremely easy to use, wonderful program. And the rest of mine is thanks to everybody who submitted these free and pay apps. And this is from my many ways to pay presentation. And our friend Bill James, I don't think he knows what money looks like. He doesn't have, any crinkles in his wallet maybe, but he uses all of these different systems, apps to pay things. And if he uses his Apple Pay and Apple Cash, he'll get 2% back cash on all his purchases. With his Samsung Pay, and he is a Samsung kid, his watch, so on and so on. And he gets discounts on Samsung products if he uses Samsung Pay. Loves Cash App. He says if you're at a dinner and you need to quickly find out how much everybody owes, and they all have Cash App, a snap of your fingers and it's done. He uses Venmo and PayPal like I do. And the thing is after our cryptocurrency presentation, he was unable to attend. I gave him an overview of what we had done at his house in Oklahoma City. He was opening up his Cash App and buying $10 worth of cryptocurrency, and he did the same with Venmo. He told me the other day that his $10, and Venmo is up over $12 now. And his Cash App $10 is up over $14 in cryptocurrency. Terry Harvey from the Wisconsin All User Computer Club loves something called Color Note. She's passionate about it. If you read what she has there, it is her go-to calendar reminder type program. She's got her passwords in there. The app syncs with her computer, her phone, and all of her tablets. And yes, she has more than one. And she says, in her opinion, everybody needs to be using this. And if it's in color, that would be something I would love. Chris Gould, Geeks on Tour. She's on Snapseed kick right now. We've had a presentation at a Wednesday workshop, and she's given it to several computer clubs, and it's on, you know, both types of phones. And it's a little app that you really want to know about. If you want to do something, you use Google Photos, and you just can't do it in Google Photos. I just love the one where she, you know, how she transformed her mother. And it's a fun program. If you don't have it, you should get it and try it just for grins. Huey has a new thing. Reddit. You never know when you're going to find something good on Facebook. He has discovered something called Everything. And it's a search engine for your Windows computer, but it's to locate your files and folders by file name. He says, snap your fingers and you found it. And it initially displays every file and folder on your computer. You can also look for file content. If your systems change, it keeps up to date with that. He recommends that. At the end of my presentation, I have website addresses for everything. And of course, this is included. He has put a video together on how to learn how to use this. And the link to his video is also included. Gary Odie from the Potomac Area Technology and Computer Society group loves Mail Washer by Fire Trust. And he says he's been using it for years, gets rid of spam and other reoccurring emails you don't want. And I know there's many people out there who love Fire Trust Mail Washer. Super Anti-Spyware, he thinks that's the best thing that came down the pipe too. He's used it for years, and it removes adware and tracking cookies. Clip Grab is another app, and he said uses it to download videos from YouTube. And that quote is from their website telling you what it is they do. It's a standalone application. They don't care which browser you're using. You might want to try that. And this is one from Gary and Pat Aces. And he sent me a lot of them. This is way cool. It's Route Generator, and it's for Linux and Windows, and it's for fun if you create vacation windows, and you can make a movie of your route on a map. And John from the Brookdale Computer User Group loves Default Folder X. And that's for your Mac. It's by St. Clair Software, and he says, I find it very useful. It has a much faster way to navigate a directory to locate, store, retrieve files on what he says is a well-used Mac. Read between the lines. He's got a gazillion files on it. This kind of sounds like it might be similar to Huey's Everything. And he says a tip of his hat to Lee Maxwell, who is a workshop leader of the Brookdale group, and he told him about it. So when in doubt, you can always get wonderful information from the members of your group. And Gary also likes Bellark, and he says my favorite free utility is Bellark. WizFile, Michael Hurley, quick and easy way to find a file when you can't recall where you saved it. I think we've always, many of us have been there. Chris Nance from the Kentucky group, it's actually the Kentucky Indiana PC Users Group. He says he uses several. And I imagine there's a gazillion people out there who use CCleaner, but he also uses Glary Utilities, For those of you who have been around since the beginning of time, that was Ira Wilsker's favorite utility program, and he uses something called Wise Care. All I can think is this hard drive must be the most uncluttered hard drive known to man. Magic Eraser, Indian Prairie Computer Club, Joe Nowak, and he said, does a nice job of removing unwanted images from photos. Let's hope it's very easy to use. Take a picture of a statue and at the last minute, some crummy person walks by in the background. And again, it's one trick pony. I like apps that only do one thing. I know they do it well. I know how to use it, and zip, it's done. Highlight the unwanted item, click erase, and boom, the person walking by is gone. Word cloud. I'm always looking for different word cloud programs. I find a good one and then it goes away. And this day and age, we have to be so careful about having copyrighted graphics in our presentations, especially if we're going to upload them to YouTube, who will catch them if you have them in your presentation. But I've taken to foregoing on the beginning slide, the first slide of a presentation, a graphic, and I will do a word cloud with all of the items that I'm talking about in the presentation. And that's exactly what he did for us. And those are highly bright, visible, and it makes a nice graphic and lets people know exactly what it is going to happen at, in this case, the Everything is Free workshop. Ventusky, Joe Nowak again likes this, and it's an excellent weather utility. And you look at that, and then that just tells you how darn hot it is in every place. Well, it's hot here in California, and it's not included here. Rufus, Drew King from the Sarasota Technology User Group. It says it's free for Linux, and it does stuff that I have no clue what he's talking about. But you guys will understand because you speak Linux, and I speak a lot of it, but not the technical part of it. But this is what he loves. Here's the Revo uninstaller again by Drew, and he gives you his version of the descriptor, which is much better than mine. So you can see a lot of us use the same thing. He also uses File Shredder, and it's a desktop app for shredding or destroying unwanted files beyond recovery. We recently had an e-waste event in my valley, and I sent it out to the members of the Senior Center Advisory Council. And I heard back from one of the members, and she said, I'd love to get rid of this old desktop I have here, but I've got stuff on it that I can't, I'm not comfortable with just turning it in. And I told her, I said, I'll come and get it, open it up, and beat the hard drive to death. Well, if I had known about File Shredder, I had fun hammering on the hard drive, but still, that was my version of, nobody can ever find these documents. But you might want to try File Shredder. Jerry Berman from the Leisure World Apple Club. He sent me many. He uses GIMP. John talked about that. We have had a presentation by the editor of the APCUG group on GIMP. He's promised another one. He uses OpenOffice, not LibreOffice, but OpenOffice. Loves Audacity, as so many people do. He uses something called Handbrake, and it can process most common multimedia files and any DVD or Blu-ray sources that read the end of the line there. They're not copy protected, and he loves Malwarebytes, and his note is download the 14-day trial version, but don't upgrade and pay. Well, when you download Malwarebytes, you kind of are forced to, say, yes, I will take the 14-day trial. And you just have to remember in 14 days, you don't automatically get it. Jerry Berman again likes something called WavePad. It's auto editing software for novices. I like that word. Enthusiasts and professional music editors. So John, you might want to ask your son in Nevada what he thinks about that. I think probably many of you are using Spotify to listen to your favorite music. And he said, you know, you got to establish an account and then you can listen to it for free, but you'll get commercials. And of course, if you don't want commercials, there's that word pay up at the top. He loves Dropbox. Bill James uses this as one of his backup areas. And it's for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS devices, Linux, and free 2 gigabytes of storage. After that, you pay. I can remember back in the day, many of the APCUG officers were doing Dropbox, and if they could get you to use open an account, they got extra Dropbox space. And I understand that Bill James has a gazillion gigabytes of Dropbox space, and that's how he got it for free. And normally I would say it's time for questions, but I will say it's time almost for open mic. And let me see.
I'll let her check her chat box.
Yeah. Steve Gerber says, Patch My PC updates LibreOffice to the latest version, not the stable version. Thanks, Steve. Good to know. Language Tool is like Grammarly, only it's open source. John, you might want to add that to your presentation. Works with Thunderbird. Grammarly doesn't. There you go. So that's your part of that. Oh, somebody says CCleaner was sold in 2017 and it has now been hacked twice in the past 5 years. That's old news, and it's not that they were hacked. It was that the people that were working on it made a bad choice that was immediately rectified, and when people crabbed and complained about it. Revo also works on Android. And someone said, I just ran Belarc Advisor and it created its HTML web page results. Yes, I saved my HTML results into a Word document since that's what I use. And when I tried to save it, I didn't see it said .html, and Word said, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And I went, what? I said, I want all this information. And I looked at it and I went, oh, and I changed it to a docx and saved it. So I have it. And it was interesting because when I downloaded it last night, it said, I'm sorry, your definitions are 347 days out of date. So obviously the last time I had used it was 347 days ago. I thank them very much for that. Okay, someone is looking for a program that uses an iPhone to scan books and music CDs, ISBN, and creates a searchable database. So think about that and see if anybody can answer that question. And John, you are on for open mic.
Yeah, wanted to make a comment to go along with your Belarc. Our club does refurbishing computers. And so after we refurbish, we put the night, because we didn't know about Patch My PC, add all the software that we want to include. And we include all the freebie security ones and the cleanup ones. And then we run the Belarc, print that out, tape it to the computer. So when somebody gets one of our refurbished computers, they know exactly what's included on it, inside and software. So that's a good double way that we use all those programs together.
Outstanding. And the one thing it also tells you how long it's been since you've used that software. And you go, really? Oh, I forgot I even had that.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm going to uninstall that because I don't need it. I got zinged on security because I hadn't downloaded and installed the latest Tuesday patch. And okay. If you have questions, now's the time to use the raise hand option under reactions.
We've had a lot of interesting information that has been presented, and I'm sure there's lots of questions for Sue, me, or for Bill. Oh, I forgot to change my name like I told everybody else to. And
a while ago, I had 9 people that aren't getting anything.
That
So
includes
you
me.
might want to go through. Oh, I know who you are.
I'm making the recording. I have it.
Yes. So
yeah.
please.
So let me make the little mark here.
Okay. So while I'm calling names here to talk, would you go through the list and see if you can see if that has gone down? Jerry, you're on.
Thank you. Let me lower my hand here.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2 things. I forgot which version of free virtual machine runners that you suggested, John, but I will make the point. I was a VMware power user for a long time. You can download VMware Player for free directly from the VMware site. And it'll also will allow you to create new virtual machines. Now, that's not for commercial use. That's just for personal home use. Judy, you have convinced me to pay. I've been using free CCleaner forever, but I decided, since you said, I'm going to go ahead and pay for the pay version to get all the other options. Yes. So anyway, and it was one of the things that I wanted to mention, and I can't remember what it was. So, I've been using Microsoft Office forever. I just can't bring myself to switch. There's just too many capabilities there. I realize it's extremely expensive. I'm using 2019 now, and I'm about ready to go to 2021. But it's just it's so useful, and I use all 4 of the Outlook, all the other 3 programs as well, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So, and I think that's the only other thing that I wanted to say. So, yeah, I would recommend, if you like. I like VMware because I like the power of the name. But so anyway.
Jerry,
yeah, I don't know if Bob G is still on. Is Specky, is that free, or or do I have to pay for that? No, it's free.
Okay. Jerry, it's like our muscle memory in Word. We know exactly where everything is. We don't even have to think about it with, a Word, PowerPoint, and I'm not exactly the, huge Excel user, but you just don't have to think about the muscle memories there. And I have customized my Word and my PowerPoint home ribbon. So especially with Word, I hardly have to go and click on anything else. Everything that I use is right there up close and personal. Yeah. Because I've never mucked with style, and muck is a technical term, mucked with style. So it's gone. And that gives me quite a good space where I can bring in and customize that ribbon. David, you're on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Just 2 Malwarebytes. I'm still using the free version of that. I haven't upgraded that, but there's a Malwarebytes available for Android, and I assume for iPhone too. Also, I've downloaded that and run Malwarebytes against my phone. So anyway, and one other program I would mention real quickly. There's a program called Deja Office, and it's for Android and maybe for iPhone also. I use Android. I've never used Apple products, but it gives you a lot of. It's called DEJA Office. It's on the Play Store, and or App Store, whatever the one for Android is. So, and there's a program that allows me to pour my Outlook calendar into my phone through a USB cable. So, and I use that all the time. That's called Companion Link. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you, Judy. So,
thanks. Gabe.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, I have a question for the lady who I gave the presentation on the census and on genealogy, and then a comment. And the question is, the census, as I understand, does various mini censuses in between the 10 years. They look at various specific aspects of data in those intervening years. And I'm wondering whether those are also available
Those are,
for research, or did they start that too early, too recently, and so that kind of information is also blocked by the 72-year rule?
the statistical reports are generally available on the government website. Afterwards, they're not tied to any names or anything, so they're not restricted by the 72-year rule. But they're not on the genealogical websites, but they'd be on the archives on the government.
Okay, so that's not information that would be considered genealogically interesting.
Well, it's interesting to a point, but may not, it doesn't apply to specific individuals. And what they started to do with the more recent surveys is like they had infant cards for 1950 census, they had some extra things. They've destroyed those records. So if they didn't get them the information they were used for statistics, they're not coming back.
All right. I wanted to mention that because the census has historically been done by people writing in cursive, that the information sometimes gets mistaken. I know that my grandmother's information in one of the census records was misread. Her name is Gerarda, and it was interpreted as Gunda, Gunda, instead of Gerarda, which made it very difficult to search for, as you can imagine.
Yep.
And I also wanted to respond to the comment about Microsoft Word. Microsoft doesn't really care about our muscle memory, and they have changed the look and feel of the Office suites and the Outlook browser multiple times. They've rearranged the menus, they've recategorized things and relabeled. And so every time a new version comes out, you have to relearn it, which has been irritating.
Yeah.
So that's the end of my comments.
One of my members mentioned that the 1950 census has not been indexed yet, and he's tearing his hair searching for things.
Most of the sites, most of the pay sites are pretty much done with their indexing, and everybody has their own indexers. So look on multiple sites because it may be indexed differently. They started with the big cities, but they've pretty much got it all done now. And you don't have to use the government site to try and find things because their search engine is good.
He's a retired government employee. Possibly that's just automatically goes to the government site. I don't know. Gabe Goldberg, you're on.
Hi, thank you. 3 great presentations, a question and a suggestion. A question for John, where he was talking about the utility that does the automatic installs. It would seem to me that would bypass the options of doing a custom install, which you then talked about later with another utility. I always do custom installs. I may very well accept the defaults, but I really want to see everything that is checked and unchecked. And I wonder whether doing the automatic installs that you said, set it and let it run, everything being installed, doesn't that risk lacking supervision of the install? And the suggestion I wanted to make is another whole category of valuable software or browser add-ins. I have a maybe 10 or so add-ins on Firefox, and I make it dance to my own tune. And I just installed an add-in in Thunderbird, which solved a problem that had been nagging me for quite a long time. And I actually looked for but didn't find a way to make a contribution. So the fellow who wrote that is just doing it out of the goodness of his heart. But add-ins, especially for Firefox and Thunderbird, where they're sort of vetted by Mozilla, and you can look at ratings and write-ups and star evaluations and do a pretty informed selection of what you want to install. And both for Firefox and Thunderbird, add-ins really hugely increase the value of those two programs.
Good one. Now,
Okay,
comment back on Gabe's question. Both both Night and Patch My PC do block the extra installs of stuff. The only thing I didn't like about Night was that they add icons to your desktop, and a lot of people know how I despise cluttered desktops. But in the Night or the Patch My PC program, under the customization, you can check the box that says, don't put the icon on the desktop. But both of those will do the good job of not installing it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have used it for our refurbishing group and add.
I wasn't actually concerned so much about the drag along crap that sometimes installs give you, but I just meant the configuration and choices of options when you're installing something, that sometimes you have quite a lot of options that will determine how something works. And I like to see that as I'm installing it rather than have to hunt them down later.
Okay, yeah.
and if you don't do a custom install and you just let it install, and then something flies in front of your very eyeballs and you go, oh Lord, I'm not interested in that. You have to go into uninstall your programs and get rid of it. Well, the person that is attached to that piece of software that you really don't want gets a few pennies from the person whose software you are interested in. Gabe, okay, let me know. Would you be interested in a presentation, a workshop on browser add-ons? If you would, then you all need to send me an email with all of your favorite browser add-ons for whatever browser. It was International Cat Day yesterday, by the way, or Monday, by the way. And that you use and you think it's great. And if you do, I need the URL of it so I can, capture something, and a little, 2 or 3 sentences on why it works for you. And like Gabe says, it makes everything so much better with the browsers. So if you guys want that presentation, you have to give me the information so we can put one together. And if I don't hear from anybody, Gabe, that was a horrible idea.
I know how the voting goes, Judy.
I know. I got more from people this time than I ever have before, which I was shocked. I was up so late last night. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one real quick again. I think, Judy, in your utilities, you talked about a program will automatically determine if you have the latest update on all the software that's on your machine.
Patch My PC.
Okay. How does that program determine what the latest update is?
They probably go out to the website and get it, which is your option. You can
Okay.
go out to each
Yeah.
and every website and see if there is one to download. Night and File Hippo do exactly the same thing. It's just that I found out that I had stuff that neither one of them updated. And with Patch My PC, I only have 12 different things in addition to my Microsoft stuff. I run lean and mean, and it has all 12 of those. Night and File Hippo always left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
Also,
I'll say, Jerry, when you run the first time that you run Patch My PC, it goes through and it reads all your software, and it then knows what the version is.
Okay.
And then it goes out and compares it to their database of what's the newest one.
I like your recommendations, by the way, for Bellark. However, I'm extremely sensitive about where I went out there to download it, and I cannot download it without giving my identity. I'm not sure that, so I may do it anyway. Usually when somebody wants to know who I am, I just say, no, thanks, but.
Jerry, read the fine print. They don't care who you are or what you do with it. It is all on your equipment.
I understand that. But well, I guess I could call myself John Smith and give a phony email, I don't like to do that, but you know, they
They've
wanted my name and email and all that. I'm
They've
afraid
never
I'll get
sent
off.
me an email, and I've used this for years. Remember, the definitions were 347 days overdue. And so I have never received a single bit of communication from Bellark.
It looks like a really, really good.
Anything that, you know, they're making their money with businesses.
Yeah, Tad, I've used Bellark since back in the DOS days. Never have I got anything from them.
Okay, thank you. That convinces me. I'll go ahead and give my ID.
Okay, now you need to think about the people in your club. There's going to be people that stand up and say, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing that came down the pike. You know, you all have to try this, blah, 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 blah. And you look at them and you think, you know, I would trust that person and their choice of apps, then I could throw him or her across the room. So when you attend something like this, who can you trust? You can trust me, John. Huey, anything Huey says is golden. You know he's done his research. You know there is not going to be anything nefarious attached to it, inside of it, or anything like that. But you like Matt Batt. I don't know Matt, didn't know Matt Batt. I'm here, I'd given presentations to Sun City's group, but I didn't know him. But I had a sense of when he spoke, he knew what he was talking about and he had done his research, so I could trust him with Patch My PC. If somebody else had said that, I probably would have gone, I don't think that's for me, unless I checked it out in a bunch of different sources. So be aware of who you believe and download something. Scope it out in reviews. See what people have to say about it. Do we have any? I'm getting seasick from these people walking around and mucking around with their cameras. And I'm not that close to the ocean anymore. Do we have any more questions, or do I get to eat breakfast earlier than usual? Nope. And I hope you all did that have cats celebrated International Cat Day on Monday.
Thanks to you,
At
Judy.
my group meeting, almost everybody has a cat that we get to see except for my two. So I took pictures of them for the July meeting so they know they actually existed. I had a good time. John had a good time. Sue had an excellent time, I'm sure. She's a fantastic presenter. And the information just oozes out that she is so knowledgeable. Check the Speakers Bureau. She gives genealogy presentations. She's got to have 1.5 tons of presentations listed on the Speakers Bureau list. She would be more than happy. She's even one who might be willing to stay up until God knows when to give a presentation in the Pacific time zone.
Yeah.
You know, so you want to learn more about genealogy? She's your lady.
I have one quick question for Sue. A long time ago, I used a program called Personal Ancestral File. Have you ever heard of that program, Sue? I know they don't, they decommissioned that. It was free from the Mormon Church or.
Yes, it was. Yeah, and you can still, there's some open source stuff for you to be able to open it if you've saved something in it that you can no longer open.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it doesn't exist anymore. They haven't updated it anymore.
Well, with everything online, given the reality of the world now, you'd never even need to use that program anymore. So.
Yeah.
Huey, you can send me my commission after the meeting.
And a reminder that we'll refund those money that you registered with for this
Yes.
free conference.
Look for the check in the mail.
Yeah.
Thanks to you all for superb presentation today. I attend almost every one of these APCUG Wednesdays. They always have good stuff. So anyway, thanks for all of it.
If you have ideas, let me know. If you have Linux ideas, let John know. If you would, oh my gosh, be willing to give a presentation, let me know and I'll faint on the floor and then I'll get back up again and say 1,000 thank yous. If you have given a presentation at your club, this is no different. You know, the projector worked at home, but it didn't at the meeting. Remember, these presentations are warts and all. And please think about giving a presentation. I would love new blood. And instead of it's just the same old folks around and new ideas, etc. And we don't bite. Honest, we do not bite. David, you're on again.
Well, I just want to suggest to Sue that she build into her presentations some of the foreign websites that are genealogy sources for civil records and so on in Europe, especially, which is digitizing a lot. I have a link to one of them that as a family tree for my ancestors in Germany. And I'm sure that other countries have the same types of resources. So I would suggest that she might want to do some research, or maybe she knows about them, but it would be helpful for her to build those into her presentation.
In her spare time.
Yeah, to the extent she has any.
Yeah, she's the genealogy guru at her computer club, and she also teaches classes at their local library.
Thanks.
But if you have any websites that you think she might not have, you could put those in the chat box right now, or you could send them to me and I can share them with her.
Yeah.
And that way she won't be, she doesn't have to try to paint her own rocks because they've already been painted by you.
That's right. I never fail to learn something from when I do a presentation, because somebody's got some little nugget.
That's why I call my digital asset presentation, my living presentation, about death. I learn something new to add to it every presentation. Randall.
I just found Eversync was the program that he was talking about with bookmarks. I was wondering if you already have bookmarks in your browsers like Edge and Chrome or Firefox, if it can pull those out of there, or do you have to re-enter all of them?
Trying to remember, because I've been using Eversync for a long time. Well, I used to use a program that LastPass had resurrected, and when they dropped it, I dropped LastPass, and I was able to convert from all that. So I've been using a password manager for many years, and I stopped using the browser ones because they're so restricted to that browser on that computer. I'd have to go look that up and see. But like I said, I hardly use my Eversync now because I use mostly my Bitwarden as my bookmark, because everywhere I'm going to go. So I'll have to check into that.
I have been asked how long are the recordings available. Well, if you want to go back to 2012, you'll find recordings on YouTube. So what does that tell you? They're up on YouTube forever. You will eventually receive a follow-up email from me with a link to the YouTube video with a copy of the PDF presentations. Sue Mueller has a handout for genealogy. She revised it this morning. Who knows? She might revise it again and send it to me. But and it will. I woke up one morning and the light bulb went on and thought, you know, dummy, why haven't you been splitting the workshops apart? So Sue's presentation will be one video and John's and mine will be another video. So if you just want to see the genealogy presentation, show it to your group, boom, it'll be there. John Metcalf, you're on.
Hey, greetings. I just have a comment on genealogy. I used to work right near where the central branch of the Los Angeles City Library. They have a history and genealogy section with something like 150,000 books, literally. And they, I went over there at lunch one time with one of my colleagues, and in 30 minutes, we found a county history in Colorado where his family was from, and it proved that his ancestor was the brother of a signer of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the first Chief Justice of the United States, a fellow named John Jay. And my friend's name was John Jay. So, it's useful, and I used to go there much, but now it's 40 miles away. So, it's not that,
You wouldn't find any of that stuff at our libraries, John.
no. The Family History Center for the Mormon
Yeah.
Temple in Los Angeles has what they call the second largest genealogy library in the country.
Well,
And
one of our Mormon churches here, the one on Lyons Avenue, is the go-to place here. That's where they help you with genealogy. The rest of the temples, they don't. It's centered there on Lyons, and they're more than happy to have you come in and chat with them.
yeah, I haven't been there, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, well, you
But
should.
I've been to the main one. I have been to the main genealogy library in Salt Lake City,
Ooh.
and I spent one evening there one time, and I was able to fill in a whole branch of my one of my lines from around pre-1800. So it's you
So
gotta
if
put in the
you're
work.
ever in Salt Lake City, put it on your to-do list.
Oh, it's a multi-story building. It's huge.
Yep.
And
Well,
you
the
can
one in
work.
Westwood isn't too shabby.
Yeah.
Okay, Donna, you have a question. Unmute yourself, please.
Great presentation. Thanks. My first time sitting in on this. And I have a suggestion for a guy. He's on social media. It's called Hardware Savvy, and he's very knowledgeable of Androids, iPhones, Macs, and PCs. Little insider tips that you like, go to your settings, do this. He does things a little fast, but it's free, but he also has a paid version of things. Good. It's called Hardware Savvy.
Thanks.
And then I think I had a question about being able to do my passwords from Google Password Manager, because they don't create them. You create them and they just save it to put it into the program you suggested. Does anyone know about that? How to do that?
We usually, up until a short time ago, quote, said, never save your password on your browser. And if Bob G is still here, he could certainly talk about that, because he said, Judy, that's old information.
Oh,
But now it's safe enough to use.
on Password Manager, Google Password Manager.
Because all the browsers have them.
But
That's just my comment. And Bob, do you have something to add to that for me, please?
my question was, I don't know anything about Google Password. That's not one that I'm familiar with to know how you can export out of Google Password into Bitwarden. But
Well, you make your own password and then it
Yeah.
saves it to
right.
Google
But
Password.
we're talking about, you were asking about exporting it to
Right,
Bitwarden.
right.
They'll tell you if there's a way to do it from Google Password. Bitwarden has the steps to take on their website.
Okay. Richard from Australia.
Yes. Can any of you recommend a free software that will verify thumb drives storage? Given that people are advertising thumb drives very cheap at 2 terabyte, it would be nice to be able to plug it in and confirm that it really is storing that amount of data and not fudging it.
No, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by verify?
That there really is 2 terabytes in that thumb drive, and
Oh,
they haven't fiddled the firmware, so it just looks like 2
Yeah.
terabytes. When you try to use it, it's not really there.
I believe John Kennedy to speak to that about the terabyte thumb drives we got down at the Florida conference from David Williams.
Yeah, all it was for us is that we plugged it in, it said it wasn't 2 terabytes. It just said it on the outside of it.
But
Well,
There
the other
is-
thing
there
you do
is-
is that, I would just take it and reformat it. And then when it's reformatted, see what it says it is. And that's what it really is.
They do programs, so they say they're 2 terabyte, But when you actually try and write the data in, it's not really there, or they overwrite pages, the same page twice. So when you try and read it again, you're reading back stuff that's been written at other addresses. So you want a utility that will actually go through that whole 2 terabytes and confirm that what is written is read back.
Are you right? Are you buying no names from China?
Possibly. They're
No.
advertised on eBay for
Oh, okay.
$12 or so.
Oh, well, that's what these were. He got a whole bulk thing dirt cheap, but that was less than $12 each from China. He swore by them. That was our former president. And I use mine all the time. And you might want to try buying some that are, you know, by a well-known name, but you'll probably have to pay more. Thinking that a well-known name might be more reliable.
Just because it's got HP on the outside of the thumb drive doesn't necessarily mean it's a HP thumb drive.
I don't necessarily like HP either, so you chose the wrong company to talk about. Anyway, David, over to you. We were totally unhelpful, Richard. Over to you, David.
Well, I do have a question or maybe a comment about password generators. Occasionally when I'm logging in or registering with a new website, my browser will suggest a complex password for me. And I generally resist because I don't know where that's being stored. If it's on my hard drive, then I wouldn't be able to use that password if I was logging in from any other machine.
Correct.
But if it's stored in Mozilla's server somewhere, I'm not sure how secure that is.
Yeah.
I'm told they're secure now.
Yeah.
That I should not tell people under penalty of death, they should never use a browser passwords place.
The issue is not the security part. The issue is you can't use it anywhere else except for that browser. When you use a password manager that lets you generate passwords, it'll store it in the password manager with that new username.
So I can use it in Edge or Chrome because it's in the password manager as opposed to the Mozilla browser's memory.
Correct.
Files.
Or you can use it off the web by being at somebody else's computer. You can get your password off your account on the web. So
Right,
that has its advantages.
Because I want to be able to use my iPad sometimes, but also use the Windows desktop other times. And if it's only available on one of those, it's pretty much useless to me.
Then
Right.
you want a password manager. And if you're not happy with having it in the cloud, as I have a couple of members of my group aren't, you can find one that is strictly on your hard drive, which means you can only use it when you're sitting in front of your computer.
Right.
Yeah. The one advantage of the KeyPass that I mentioned is that can be stored on a thumb drive and then it goes with you.
Okay. So I have to start looking at cloud-based password managers then.
Well, if you want free and open source, you don't go any further than Bitwarden.
Okay.
If you want to pay for it, LastPass, 1Password says they've never been hacked. 1Password is if you travel, it takes sensitive information off as you go across the border and puts it back on. When you get there, I happen to have that kind of presentation. But yeah, take a look at what they have. But APCUG, a lot of APCUG people use Bitwarden or they use LastPass.
All right. Well, thank you. I will look into that.
Judy, you had your hand up.
I have the definitive answer for you, Richard. Are you ready? This is from John, of course, Brookdale Computer Users Group. Flash drives usually come formatted as FAT32, which limits size. You need to reformat it to NTFS for Windows to get the multi-terabyte. John, why don't you try that with your David Williams special? It's
Well,
Just saying, I've got stuff on mine.
well, I would do it with ext4.
Well, okay, that's right. Oh, never mind. John, you're on again.
Me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you remember hard disk Sentinel that you turned
HD.
us on to?
Yeah.
I believe when you stick a thumb drive in there, it automatically looks at it and tells you how big it is and all that sort of thing.
I will try that. Thank you so much. I will do that. In fact, I'll do that with my, what is it, 1 or 2 terabyte flash drive I have right here.
And it'll tell you if it's any good either.
Good.
Yes, because it certainly keeps track of both of my, in addition to my hard drive, it keeps track of both of my external backups. And I hope that many of you took advantage of that wonderful discount we had. Lifetime for HD Sentinel, I think it was $14.99 each or something. And every time I turn my computer on, it pops up and says, hi, all of your drives are working absolutely fantastically. I received an email from somebody who had lost a hard drive totally. And I thought, oh, I wish he'd had taken the time to buy HD Sentinel at the discount, and he would have known that his drive was going south. Drew, you're on.
Oh, thank you. For the KeyPass managers, if you have an Android phone and you want to use KeyPass, there's an app in the Google Play App Store called Android KeyPass to Android, and it supports cloud storage. So if you put your database file on your Google Drive or your OneDrive or some of the other ones, it can go out and get a copy of it and cache it locally on your phone. If you edit the file, it puts it back on your Google Drive for you so that other devices can get it.
Thank you.
And I will just also mention that on my, I gotta put, there you go, on my cell phone, there is a version of Bitmap on that. So I have my passwords with me at all times.
A copy of what?
I have a Bitmap app on my phone. So I have all my passwords with me at all times.
What is a Bitmap app?
I'm sorry, Bitwarden.
That's what I was trying to get you to say.
Yeah. It's getting late. I say shorten things down.
Gabe, your
Yeah, I
turn.
just wanted to comment, since you mentioned hard disk Sentinel. I'm doing a presentation on hard disk Sentinel at a couple of user groups, one later this one next month. And I've been chatting with Janos, the wonderful, brilliant developer of HDS, and I'll ask him if he can reinstate the discount. He's just been immensely forthcoming in supporting user groups. I keep telling him he's not charging enough for his product, and he's perfectly happy with the current price. So I'll see if I can get that same discount again.
Thank you so much. That will be the 3rd time. And you need to rethink your policy when it comes to presentations. I have a comment in here from John again. I saved my KeyPass database on Dropbox and sync or download where needed. David, you're on.
Someone had mentioned earlier is software to clean up your hard drive, and I occasionally get challenged by my virus software to clean up my hard drive and to get rid of unused files. And there are things that are built into the operating system that show up, and I don't know which of them I need and which I can safely delete. How do I figure out what is safe to take away of things that are potentially unused, but that the software thinks I should get rid of?
Bob G, you've got to answer that question about CCleaner that he just asked. It's HD, hard drive Sentinel HD. Okay, he's doing something else. If you use CCleaner, the other one was Glary, Glary Utilities, or Wise Care that I've never heard of.
Beach Split, the other one.
You choose what you want to go. You don't, that's what I say. You need to customize it. Whatever app that you download. You always need to customize it how you want to use it. Every time you get, your big Windows updates twice a year that maybe will only be once a year, you need to go through all of your settings, because Microsoft is known to set your changed setting back to the way they have it in the first place. So I recommend you always check that out. But you're the one who decides, David, what you're going to get rid of. And at the end, it says, are you sure you want to do this?
I have to go back to when I first used CCleaner, umpteen years ago. And I had to customize it because there's an option in CCleaner to get rid of fonts. And in the beginning, I just ran CCleaner. And on that one computer, it deleted all the fonts on my computer. When I booted up, the computer only boot to machine language. And luckily, I knew what to click and where to type, and I was able to get back in. And the first thing I did was I said, CCleaner, never delete my fonts.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else said, oh, it only doesn't do that. I said, hey, for me, there were no fonts on my computer except for some kind of machine garble. But I got back in, luckily, because I knew enough to click here, click there, type here. So yeah, customize both, whether it's BleachBit or CCleaner or whatever you use. That's the whole thing. No matter what program you use for anything, first thing you always do is go up to your file or edit and preferences or customize, find out what all you have for options, and then know what it's going to do, and then you'll be happy.
And David, since you're with the Apple Club down in Laguna Woods or
Maryland.
Yeah. On your, okay, I have one down here. Do you use a Windows computer?
I have a Windows desktop, and I have an iPad and an iPhone.
Okay, because Windows has a built-in program that does exactly what CCleaner does. It's not as detailed as CCleaner, but
It's called Storage Sense.
yeah, if you depend.
I use it exclusively.
Yeah, and there's the old-fashioned one where you go into right-click on your C drive and choose properties down at the bottom.
Right.
And that does it does a heck of a lot of what you do in CCleaner. And again, you uncheck the boxes. When Microsoft updated, 10 one time, they automatically checked the download box. I keep stuff in, a few things in my download box that's the only place I need it. If I need to refer to it, I don't need it any place other than that. And everybody came unglued because they ran it and didn't stop and smell the roses and saw that the downloads box was checked. And they quickly unchecked that box as to automatically happen. So take a look at the Windows one and see if that will do enough for you.
Was that in Windows Utilities?
No, that's going into my PC, right-clicking on your C drive that you see.
Right.
Down at the bottom, it says Properties.
Yes.
And then you go from there, and it tells you, it's got a little round circle with the amount of your hard drive and how much is free.
Mm-hmm.
And then you click on something, I can't remember what it says, and it takes you to the green bar that trucks the clock across very slowly if you haven't done it for a while. And it pops up and you choose what you want to do. The newest version is Storage Sense. I prefer to be able to look at, I like to prefer to look at stuff, but Storage Sense is the same thing. You check the boxes of stuff you want to say goodbye to.
Was that a download or is that built into Windows?
Over to Bill James to answer that question.
Storage Sense is built into Windows 10 and 11, and it runs in the background. And I think it does a much better job than that old version that you right click and have to do all that manual gyration. Just configure Storage Sense and it will do all the disk cleanout for you. You can customize it some, but it's a really nice program. I'm using it on both my Windows 10 and Windows 11, and have used it for well, since I've used it all. I've used it from the very beginning, and I have found no problems with it.
David,
Thank you for that.
I will send you part of the presentation that has in it. I'll send you the old way and the new way, and you can get some screenshots and maybe an idea of what it's about.
Okay, one last question. Are you planning, I've seen write-ups for Apple's new passkey. And I'm wondering if anybody in your club has got and done any research on that or has more information. I'm not sure if it's been released or if it has, if anybody's actually used it and has an idea of whether it's going to be of any use to people.
I will check with Craig Wright from the Columbus Computer Society to see what he has to say about that, because he's one of my new Apple people. He doesn't realize this, but he's already given one presentation. So, and then we do have Jerry Rogan from a group in Arizona who will give presentation on Apple products. He is the new listing in the Speakers Bureau list. Kathleen.
Last one.
Yeah, because John says, I think I heard your stomach growling. That's me.
I just want to be clear. I've been really afraid to use CCleaner anymore because I'm kind of suspecting it caused me to lose some of my files that I hadn't used in a long time, but didn't, there's a difference between unused and unwanted, and I lost some critical files that were back from Ventura program stuff that I'm having to recreate all of those publications. So in CCleaner, do I understand correctly that I can say uncheck, don't get rid of unused files? So I can run it without risk of losing something old?
Do you have the free or paid version?
Free.
Okay, is there somebody who uses the free CCleaner? I can't look at that because I have the paid one. Is there somebody who has this free one that will be willing to look that up and say, yes, there is a checkbox where you can find that?
I don't recall. I'm sorry, Judy.
I don't recall that at all.
I don't either. I use the free one the only time I ever use it right before I run my weekly backups. I run Cleaner to get rid of all that CRUD files that I don't need to
How
back
clever
up.
of you.
But
Good tip.
I don't remember a checkbox like that,
No.
Kathleen, but
Okay.
but you should look at the list right before, if you do the analyze, it's going to throw a list up there and say, here's what we're going to delete. And you can kind of look at that list and be sure that it's not going to drop any files that you want.
Okay, so it'll show me exactly which files,
Well,
not just like
but sometimes it'll
unused.
say something like Chrome cache files or something. It won't give you every file, but it'll give you a group. But
Okay.
I find it pretty reliable. I've never had any problems with it.
Okay, thank you.
Or
When they're
don't-
deleted, are those files recoverable from trash or from?
That's a
No, I didn't realize they were gone, and even my backups don't have them. So even an old computer doesn't have them.
Well,
it's-
when you empty your recycle bin, nothing's really gone.
Right.
There's, like I would tell my students, there's no way they can get up and walk off your hard drive. That's impossible. And if you catch it quick enough before you start working on, documents or installing a program, there are programs out there that will get you every single thing back that you deleted, but you have to realize it right away. And that happened at the legal department. I walked into work one day and this attorney was sitting there, the one who knew everything about everything in technology. And they said, you need to go see, and I went, okay. And I said, hi, what's the problem? He'd accidentally deleted all his files on the merger he was working on.
Oh,
And I sat down there and I said, okay, fine. And I zipped my body over to, we had Fry's down the street. And I went over to CompUSA, I think, and said, let me call the IT kids. And they had, you know, no idea what I was talking about. And went and got I got every file back. But he just went like this. And so you need to find out about it quickly. Too late for you. I said that at one of my classes one time, and this woman stood up and said, oh, this is fantastic. It's going to save my husband, blah, blah, blah. She came back the next week and I said, you know, how did it work? And she said, we couldn't find anything. I said, when were they deleted? And she goes, 2 years ago. So don't wait. I see no more questions, John.
They can't, I shut them off.
Oh.
I'd like to thank especially Sue for joining us again. I know she'll be back with another presentation in the future. And I'd like to thank Judy for joining me and talking about free software. And I'd like to thank Bill for being my right-hand guy and our Windows answer man. For those who are still here, we lost a lot. We're an hour past, almost an hour past. We will not be here next week. The Linux group decided that they were going to take a vacation because they do one every month. So this is our summer break. We will not be back the next Wednesday because we have a Saturday safari. And so everybody watch for information about that. We'll do a Saturday safari, noon o'clock. And when we do that, we don't do one during the week. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for this free market, everything free on Wednesday.